Do me a favor, say hello and your name real quick.
Hello, Peter Bahouth.
Awesome, I can hear you great. I think we're all set, so whenever you're ready.
My name is Peter Bahouth. We are in the Spring Lake neighborhood of Atlanta, Georgia. Well, I live here, and I own this lot. I bought this lot after I bought the house, and I had it for about a year, and it was just wooded, and I wanted to be able to spend more time out in it. And I remembered when I was a little kid, I had a tree house, pretty much a board up in a bush, but it was where I learned the word sovereignty. So I thought it'd be really nice to have the tree house I used to dream about when I had that board in the bush. I had a bigger allowance, and started to think about putting the tree house out there. Thought it'd be a good place to kind of escape to, have a little seclusion. Had a pretty busy life at the time, and it's just really nice to have a place to come out and, that was just my own, quiet, peaceful. And so I started to think about what kind of treehouse I wanted. Well, started collecting materials. First thing I thought about was being able to sleep outside under the trees. So I thought about having a platform with a bed that could roll out under the trees so you could sleep. I always wanted a bedroom that you could have like a drawer that would, and hydraulics, like move outside and you'd be out under the sunlight or out under the stars. So it started with that, but just having one room with a bed in it, that could be considered creepy. So started thinking threes, and came out as mind, body, spirit. Wanted a sitting room, wanted a place you could sleep, and wanted a place around this magnificent 200-year-old southern shortleaf pine that's out at the end. 7 trees involved. So the decision was to make 3 rooms with bridges between them. It's really hard to figure where. You couldn't really just look out here and see where the tree houses might be situated, but as it turns out, as we started to kind of draw the tree houses out on a napkin, there were some big trees out here, and they just seemed to be grouped in the right place. And there's this one magnificent tree that's older than any other tree, larger than any other tree in the neighborhood. And I call it the old man. He's 200 years old, and he's just a magnificent tree. And he kind of anchored the rest of the treehouse. And he's at the very end. And so he's spirit. And so it just kind of, the building of the treehouse worked out in a way that was a little bit beyond what we were, planning, because trees had a lot to say with where things went and what they looked like when we built them. So just happened to be a creek under there that I wasn't even that aware of, that just kind of flowed beneath those trees. And there's a style of architecture, I don't know what the name of it is, but it's where you bring the materials to a site. Instead of leveling the site, you just kind of go with what the area gives you. And that's what happened. So a lot of it was things beyond our thinking. They just kind of happened to work out the right way. About 4 or 5 years ago, I put them up on Airbnb after reading an interview with the people that started it. And they mentioned that people liked an unusual place to stay. They talked about yurts and teepees and tree houses. I said, well, I have a treehouse suite. I wonder if anybody would come here. I really didn't think people would. I didn't know why they would. I figured if they came to Atlanta, they would either stay with friends or stay at a hotel for business. I didn't think people would really stay here. But when I put them up on Airbnb, they became pretty popular to the point where after about a year, they became the most wished for Airbnb in the world out of 3 million. And it was that way for 2 years. And so a lot of people came here from all over the world. And the very first people that came here, I didn't think they liked it very much. They didn't look all that happy or smiley. And when they left, I went out, and they had gone out and bought me a guest book. And they wrote in the guest book about their stay here. And they talked about how they came here because they had lost their children in a custody battle. And the day that their children left to live in another state, they came here because they didn't want to go back home and have that feeling. And when I read that, I said, when people come here for those reasons, I'm all for it. I didn't, in my career, it's been, I've traveled a lot around the world, and I've seen a lot of great places, and I've seen a lot of rough places because of the work I did. And what I have come to recognize about this place that is most important to me is sanctuary. So it's a sovereign place in the sense that when you're up there, you just feel like it's just away from every place, but it does provide sanctuary for people to reconnect, to talk, and that's what's reflected in the guest books. And sanctuary, I think, is a really important thing these days. And I've also recognized that, it's important to be a part of nature, to feel that like you're in nature, to feel nature, that you're not dominant over nature, but just that you're in it. And I think that's one of the things that happens when you're out there. The old man is an incredible spirit. He's very strong, and a lot of people talk about how the old man took care of him out here. And I've been out here when there's been a hurricane approaching, and I go out and kind of check on how things were when the wind was really whipping, and you go out and you look at the old man, and he looks strong, he looks like powerful, and you just realize that there's something that is out there in nature for us to learn from.
I think we got everything we need. Is there anything you want to throw
Yeah.
in? Perfect, yeah, go ahead.
I spent 30 years running some pretty large organizations. And, I do this now, and I do my stereo photography. And I realized that it's the creative things that have really sustained me in my life, even financially, to the fact where, I always like to talk about my jobs as, I think I always probably stayed a year too long in each one of my jobs, but I like to say I left each job the same way I came in, fired with enthusiasm. And so in my last job, I ended up not having one, and that was just when the Treehouses kind of hit and became the most popular, most wished for Airbnb in the world, and saved me from losing my house. And so it's pretty interesting to think that something I had done just as a creative project had actually grown up and got a job and kind of saved my ass. So it means a lot to me. It means a lot to me.